Welcome to CareerSpeak. On this edition, we will be talking with Myles Nicholls, a senior in the Fashion, Merchandising, and Management program at Thomas Jefferson University. I'm your host, Patrick Ryan, and this is being recorded on the East Falls campus of Thomas Jefferson University. This is CareerSpeak.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of CareerSpeak. Today, I am with Myles Nicholls, a senior fashion merchandising major here at Thomas Jefferson University. Myles, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ryan?
I am doing really well, and I'm glad you're here today. You know how the show works. I ask everyone who comes on, what are you doing? What are you interested in? What's going on? And what are the successes that you've had? So we know we go with 3 words here. So what are the 3 words that you feel like have really helped and aided in your success?
So for me, I would definitely go first with direction. For me, especially being here, direction has been a big part of things. From there, I'll go definitely into creativity. Creativity is what has driven me into different opportunities that I have received, just my whole mind itself. From there, the last 2 would definitely be like networking and collaboration. They definitely go hand in hand because throughout every network I have been with, I've either collaborated them or received some type of opportunity. It has pushed me into different collaborations. So if I had to just level down to those 4 words, for me personally, I would say that has helped me from the beginning till where I'm at now.
So let's talk about a little bit about your background. So you told me in pre-production that you've spent a lot of your life skateboarding, which I actually can relate to because I spent a lot of my youth skateboarding as well. So that's something we can definitely relate on. So tell me just a little bit about your background, what kind of brought you here, what are some things that have sort of kept your interest and inspired you to this point?
My sister, I will start with her. She's definitely influenced me a lot in terms of like from sneakers to fashion to kind of just being in the scene of art and creativity. She's an artist herself also, and has definitely like elevated the ideas of what I wanted to do because seeing her and being influenced by her so much throughout my life, it helped me like just say, okay, like I want to go to school for something, and since I'm getting into fashion, I might as well just see what's out there for me. I had went to a career fair at my school, was talking to some universities and trying to see what's out there. I was working with my mom some more, and like from that I had found out about this school and I found out about the major, and I weighed my options, of course, through this and went through different schools. But for some reason, like this school itself, outside of just what they were offering, of course, financially, but like just like what they're offering in terms of like the community, how small it was, like what we could learn for real here, and also being still inside the Philadelphia scene, I chose to come here, and I'm not regretful of that decision, and I appreciate honestly like that the fact that I have so many other decisions to go with because it made me appreciate being here even more and having the opportunities that has come out of it thus far. If I had to backtrack just 1 second back to like the first time I started getting into like doing things here was at Fashion Day. I had an opportunity where we had to have a competition of like students group up and pretty much collaborate between a designer and like a retailer of some sort. So mine was Gap and Alexander McQueen, and I enjoy Alexander McQueen. I've always liked his work, so I was just like, okay, like let me just see what I can do with this. So we sat there, and I got chosen as being like the designer because I could do artwork. And of course, my teammates didn't know me, so they didn't really know what I could do, and I didn't know also because it was something I never really did. But I sat there for like an hour, and we just had to hash out ideas for like, okay, we're gonna make this theme we're gonna have this concept, we're gonna have these colors, and we're gonna like build it around like this concept of like demographic and psychographics. So at the time, again, we didn't know all this stuff. We were literally just like high school students being here at Fashion Day, presenting this thing to do. We Johnny just did it. But I had designed a small collection of just like some tops, bottoms, some accessories for this. And the question I received from one of the fashion design professors was, am I a fashion design student? And I was saying no. It was kind of an odd question just because like I didn't really understand where it was coming from. But then she said because my artwork was really good and it reminded her honestly of like something a fashion design student would do. And I appreciate the comment. but then the comment after it was like, I told her, I'm a fashion merchandising major. Her next comment was, oh, why don't you come over to be fashion design instead? And I kind of just just sat there kind of confused. It's like, whoa, like, what is this? What's happening? Professor White came over and she was like, he's part of fashion design and fashion merchandising. He's with us. Like, they'll try to come over here. And it was just funny because, like, it was all jokes, but it was just funny because for me, I never got that kind of, like, recognition from somebody who is of some type of significance in, let's say, in the industry as well as in this school. So just having that small moment of just like not knowing the lady, not knowing what's really happening, but just pretty much just doing me and just executing the project because I didn't want to let my team down. It worked out in my favor because it showed me like that somebody could see this, and me just attempting something so quick had some type of impact just on them in that small moment.
So let me interrupt you here.
Mm-hmm.
So Myles is talking about a couple of things here. So how he got to Thomas Jefferson University.
Yeah.
A couple of things that have helped sort of inspire his own brand and creativity, and we're going to talk about how that's kind of grown from these two moments. But what's really interesting, and I wanted to make sure he told this story, is when you were at your career day, you had to take a picture your senior year of high school, and kind of tell the listeners sort of what happened here and how it was sort of a serendipitous kind of moment.
Yeah, so it was just funny because so we were at my career day in high school, and they were asking students just to take pictures with different flyers or different things just to hold up to kind of represent that this actually happened this day. So for me, it was like I was kind of walking around, and then one of the photographers came up to me, and they're like, "Hey, can you just take a picture with just something in your hand?" And I didn't really know what they wanted of it because it was like I have all these different flyers in my hand. So like, do you want me to hold a specific one? Like, what's going on? They're like, no, just hold a random one, just so we have a picture, just so we can like post it on the school website. So then the one I held up, actually was Philadelphia University, and this is before I even applied to it. This is before I really knew that much more about anything of the school outside of just me signing up just for the email list and receiving emails. So it was just funny how life played out from me just holding up this sign randomly on this day that was just, we're just going to because we're seniors and we got to go to it. It wasn't anything of like, oh, we're doing this like all right now. So it was just funny how that played out because not only, I can actually put a story into, not only did I hold up that sign and now I'm at this school, but also I'm the only student from my senior class that came to this school, especially under the major I came under too. So it was very just interesting how life played out that way.
So Myles was doing creative things. So we talked about the skateboarding, for instance. So even as a youngster, he was creating sort of model skate parks. And so creativity has always been a part of your life. But you never really took it seriously until these two sort of moments that happened. One at Fashion Day, which, by the way, this happens before you're actually a student here. It's sort of like an informational day.
Yeah.
So in that instance, you might not have even been coming here technically, or if you were, you hadn't even stepped into a classroom. And so you're getting this positive feedback really before you're even here. Tell everyone sort of what you've been building up since then.
So from that, just what I learned through those classes, so through honestly my freshman year classes, like it helped me out just kind of learning more stuff I didn't know. But I'll say my mid-semester of freshman year, I started just doing artwork with sneakers, and that was like where I've been at in terms of like what people know me a lot for. I started doing these sneaker designs, just jumping on it because I was like, oh, I want to try this. Like I just want to see, like, I want to start designing sneakers again. I just want to do some artwork, but like on a canvas that like I'm not really used to. So the Air Force One was the sneaker silhouette I used. And I would just write on my Instagram like, hey, could somebody like just buy a shoe, whatever, because I want to like do some artwork on it. Like I'll do for this little bit of money here and there just because I want to try it. And somebody reached out and was like, yeah, actually, I'll do it. Like I actually want this shoe. Like I'll try it. And I was like so ecstatic because I was like, wow, somebody actually bought this. Like this can actually be something now I can really try to attempt this of things. So they sent me they gave me the shoe. They told me like what they wanted, and I was like, okay, let me just try this now. I didn't even know what materials to use for this shoe. I literally just bought some some paint markers off of eBay, and I just started going in like just trying to bring their vision to life, even if at the time I didn't know really how to. And at that moment, I didn't know what type of impact it would have, even if it was that small, because the shoe, if you see it now compared to what I do now, it's nothing of significance in terms of like artwork. But just that alone, me starting off of that, helped me pretty much like launch this whole new entrepreneurship like side of myself that I didn't know was in myself. I kind of just was always doing things just more for fun and just for enjoyment, not for actual serious work or anything that was like, all right, I can really make a business out of this. And just through that alone, like I started doing more sneakers. People were just hit me like contacting me like through Instagram, because that's like my main platform, more frequently. And definitely during the summertime, I just started doing more and more and more. And of course, at the same time, I'm inside school, so like I had to balance both of those things and go through these classes. But it was helping me out because a lot of the classes I did have were classes that pertain to like business and finances and like marketing and accounting and like just trying to balance yourself.
So, what do you think of when you start making these shoes? You're making a lot of them, and this is something that Myles had kind of brought up in pre-production. He sort of had gone with a saying that he said, you know, this could really be something.
Yeah, so I've been saying that for a long while now. I would literally just draw on my skateboards, like I would paint it on there. And it's a funny side note too, just like I actually would paint on my skateboard, so that kind of started off this whole sneaker thing also. But if I had to say like the part where this could really be something, I say that a lot just for a lot of things, because I never go into just opportunity and just say, okay, like this is going to be like the outcome, because I really never know like where it could end up. Like it could go one way, it could go the other way. It's just more of like the effort you put in and what comes out of the effort. So for me, sometimes I might start like I say a sneaker, and like at first I'm like, this doesn't really look like something like cool yet, but like let me just keep trying it. Even like this, that's like a first sketch of anything. Like you start off like it could be cool, but you keep continuously working at it, and then it becomes something. So I always say to myself, this could really be something, because no matter the opportunity that comes my way, if I take it and like I actually execute it to a degree that they're satisfied with and I'm proud of, that this could really be something. This could really launch me to something next. It's going to do something more for my life in the long run, of just being able to reflect on that. And that has, honestly, this point has never been a lie. That same exact saying has worked out every single time. And it's something that, like, I don't think, it kind of randomly came to my head. It wasn't something like I kind of just read off something. I could just do off something. Like, no, I really just sat there. I was just like, oh, this could really be something. This could really be something to excel my whole idea of what I could do as not only a college student, but just as a person on a day-to-day basis, and just never giving up on the idea of like opening my mind to new things.
Since coming here, are there any professors sort of like the moment you had at the Fashion Day? Are there any professors here that you feel like have really aided you in your ability to be more creative, have opportunities in this area, or just encouraged you to continue to be creative and do these types of things?
Yeah, Professor Wyatt and Professor Juliana for sure. Without both of them, especially, like, I probably wouldn't take up certain opportunities or even have certain opportunities come my way, because they've always been encouraging and they've always been supportive of me. They treat me like their own child in a way. Like, they definitely like will ask me questions not only about, okay, how am I doing inside of school, but how am I doing my regular day-to-day life and how am I doing in my work. I would say definitely them too, because without their help, let's say the job I work at now, like I wouldn't have those opportunities, things I've done with the school, with fashion students, or like talking with people, make them, as much as I want to make myself proud, I want to make them proud too. So just having that support system on campus where like I don't have my, I guess, outside of school friends or like my family every single day, they still give me that family feeling of just always having something to look forward to every day.
We've talked about direction and your creativity at this point, two words and things that have really you felt have helped your career and some of the things you've been able to do. Obviously, creativity, a continuous theme throughout your life. And then the direction that you got once you came here, right? You saw people get excited about your designs for the first time, and you kind of thought, hey, this could be something. So tell people about the types of things that you're making now. How many of them are you making? Who's buying them? Are you traveling with these things?
Yeah.
Are you sending? what has happened now since this initial few years here, and now that you're really producing these sort of, I'm just going to say, large scale, although that's a relative term, but
Yeah. I'm gonna highlight a good amount of moments because there's a lot of moments. So I would say if I had to give a rundown of artists I've worked with, just starting off with that, just to get out of the way. I've worked with a bunch of musicians. Let's say Rich the Kid. He reached out to me. I worked with him and his team. I worked with Pusha T through his stylist. I worked with Designer through the same stylist. I worked with Young Thug, like an artist himself. I worked with Jay Critch. I've worked with Famous Dex. It's a lot. Like, there's a lot of artists I've worked with. Cap G's like a really good friend of mine now, which is cool because a lot of the time, like with these people, I make a lot of friends. I make like relationships out of them. Like I make something like I actually talk to them, like not on some just always, hey, here's some work, but just like, hey, how's everything going? And it helps me at least like see like these artists, even as big as they are, still are people, and it helps me be transparent and helps me be clear with things. From let's say when I started in 2017 till now, sneakers I've designed at the least 200. I do a lot of my sneaker work throughout the summertime where I have more time available. But even my sophomore year of college, I did at least 2 pairs a week every single day for like all the months I was here. So that's about 200 sneakers. And then between jeans, shirts, some hoodies, some jackets, I've done at the minimum 150. So between the number of 350 to 400, I've produced while being in school. And that's not including the stuff I've done outside of school, like in terms of like work with other brands. Like I've worked with a brand called Pop Cult. They're a Philadelphia brand. They have like streetwear. I did this past October, 250 pairs of socks. So it would be 500 individual hand-dyed socks. Each one I hand-dyed individually and hand-washed individually and everything hand-done, all by myself. And that was cool. It was a lot. I did it in 2 weeks. So it was kind of one of those things where like I had to really be on it. But at the same time, it helped me like just push my abilities. I didn't know if I could do these things, whatever. But like I was like taking the opportunity. I didn't want to just fall back on it and just say, oh, I can't do it because I have all this other work to do. I still took the opportunity because if I didn't, I wouldn't know what I could do. So I tried and I did it. And I'm not one of those type of things where like I regret it. I love that I did it because now I know I can do something like that on a larger scale and get even larger after that.
Now, can I stop you there?
Mm-hmm.
This is something I think that current students and future students would be really interested to hear. Do you feel like, at least for you,
Mm-hmm.
that having the challenge of physically having to produce something for someone else pushed you as an artist, as opposed to, do you think you would have done any of these things if you were just designing shoes for yourself or designing shoes for your friends? Do you think you would have pushed yourself as hard as you have since you've quote unquote gone pro? Or what do you think about that?
I would definitely say like that definitely helped me push me, like just working with people. Like I never try to push away opportunities without actually hearing them out first. But I definitely say like just working with those people has helped me just not just shy away from hearing things out and wanting to push my hands out there and touch it and see like, can I try this? Can I do it? And when I do it, will it come out the way that I envisioned at this point?
Is it fair to say and accurate to say that although you're a fashion merchandising major, that a lot of the things you're discussing, the artistry with the shoes, the jean jackets, the dyeing, you're self-taught in those areas? Those are not areas you've been learning in school. You've been truly learning the business side. All of this is your own artistry, your own creativity, and your own self-teaching. Is that accurate?
Yeah, very accurate. I think sometimes people, especially my friends, they sometimes sit there and be like, oh, well, maybe you're just kind of like naturally talented at it. And I can definitely say I probably am because I grew up in a family where we all do artwork. But at the same time, I don't just sit there and say, hey, I'm just going to do this and it comes out that way. Like I actually study things. Like as much as I study in school for like, let's say a test, I study probably even a greater amount just for like certain arcs because like I would look at videos. Like I tell people like don't just sit there and say, oh, I can't do something. Like, try to learn at least about it, like at least tempt it. So I say watch videos, read something for it, see somebody who has done it, and just get that kind of influence and get that kind of like motivation to try, because like those type of things are what push you to want to execute them. Like, I don't wake up every day and like, yeah, I can just do all these things. Like, even down to like things I work with, like artists or something like that. I research the artist. I don't just sit there and say, yeah, I'm gonna just do this and just do the artwork. Like, I research what I'm about to do, because if I don't do that, and if I do it, if it doesn't come out the way that I either envision or like the way that they envision, then it kind of just falls apart. So I would definitely say, like, just for people and seeing me, whatever, and I guess seeing what things I do, it's not just a wake up and just go type of thing. It's a wake up and draw things out, plan things out, make mood boards, make concept boards, and a lot of those things I'm saying right now are things I learned while I've been in school. I didn't know a mood board, I didn't know a color board, I didn't know concepts, I know all these things, but being, especially in school, it helped me learn not only the definitions for them, but also learn how to actually build them.
Let's go back to what you were talking about before I asked that question. You were sort of starting to lean into your next two words, collaboration and networking. So you've created sort of this brand. And I want to tell you this brief story about myself, because I don't really understand how social media works, like in its like enterprise stages. Like, I understand it as like posting a picture. But I was once talking to someone who was expressing concern about starting with a company because they have an Instagram account. Yeah. And I was like, well, I mean, unless they have some non-compete or something like that, I think you'd be able to do both. And this is when they informed me that they may, in fact, be able to make more money with their Instagram account than they would at this job.
No,
which,
that's me.
Right, which I was like, wait, what? And then they explained to me the process of influencing and all these types of things. So I know that's a part of it, but I know that's not all of it. So kind of tell people, once you got started, you started getting some initial success, people were buying your things and you liked it. How did you sort of launch your brand? What did that look like?
Okay, let's figure this out. So launching my brand was something that kind of, I think, happened naturally. Like, I didn't, like, as much as like I've learned stuff inside school to apply to it. And I'll definitely only say it's even like really officially launched. Like, I have more that I want to do before I officially launch it completely. But getting my name out there and I go by the name Malo, like that's my artist name. So people know me a lot by that through Instagram. And I would say the way of me launching was just through, honestly, my posts. Like, people were seeing a lot of consistency from me and posting and posting and posting. And it was always, of course, tagged with that same signature of Malo on things. And no matter where I would go, like, people would know me as that. So, like, I have my own personal aesthetic. And the aesthetic that a brand carries, whatever, will carry, of course, like their brand as a whole, because of the fact of like they see that, and people who that resonates with will also want to build on that aesthetic or add that to their aesthetic. So for me, like, my artwork is something that's unique. It's one of one. Each shoe is different. My jeans are usually all one of one too. Like, my jackets, every single thing I do usually is a one of one. But at the same time, no matter if it's a one of one, if you look at it, it's still built in a collection format where it's like, the sneakers, if you took every single shoe I had, you put them down, you will still see they're all artwork based on these sneakers, no matter if they're all different. If you see my shirts, they're all dyed different patterns, but they are dyed shirts. If you see it's a consistency with it. So when I start a project, I like to stay consistent with it and like at least try as many different ways of going through it, kind of the color stories, the visions, the visuals, everything with it, before I kind of just leave it at just one graphic gone or this graphic gone, because from where I started at to where I'm at now has progressed so much. So I would like to somebody who has that first jacket look at it now. This is an archive piece. This is a piece that I can hold forever and like say I have that first Malo jacket, to somebody that has the latest one and says I had the latest piece from Malo. I have this new design from him. Like, it's something now that is going to be worth probably something years from now, and that's just kind of throwing the thing out there. But like, something like that, instead of it just being, here's this piece, here's this piece, here's this piece. And that, for my own self, built my brand.
When you're thinking about looking ahead, how big do you see this getting? I mean, where do you see this ending? Do you consider yourself, you're always going to try to be a team of one? Do you see this artist name becoming more of a traditional brand? I mean, what do you see for the future?
My future, I see a lot of things. It's one of those things like I think about my future every single day. Like I don't think I can wake up now without thinking about it. And especially I think it's always happened, but especially being now that I'm my last semester of senior year. Of course I've reached out to brands to work with here and there in terms of like brands like to give my resumes to like, and that's the thing too. I didn't realize how many things I've done without building that resume part. So when it came to resume building, like career services helped me out a lot because for that I did not notice towards.
I didn't tell Myles to say this. I did
No,
not. I did
no, no,
not
no.
tell him to
He
say
didn't tell me to
this.
say this, but it's true because for real, like, oh my gosh, like that was like 2 weeks worth of work just to get that done, and even then, like it's still condensed to just small highlights of how many things I did, but they're all really good things. So when it came to um think of the idea of what I'm doing next, like I could sit here and say, yeah, I'm gonna be my own entrepreneur and like just do my own thing. But at the same time, I love working with companies. I love working with brands. Like I don't want to just cut myself off from those things. And not even just where like I just have my big brand, they have theirs. Like, I like sometimes to just be under I've told people before I work with brands and I've said I'd rather just be under the radar at things. I'll do this. You don't gotta put my name on like this X model. Like you don't have to do that. I just want to design this. I want to dye this thing. And that's what I want. I have a weird balance where like I want to do so many things, but I want to balance it. So like starting off, let's say when I got out of school, like of course I want to work with at least 1 to 2 brands and really help them build their product line and product develop like a lot of their stuff. One of the biggest goals for me for like and honestly is not only building a studio in terms of like buying like this building to build a studio, but also like getting some type of like architecture, like interior design work where like I really have some type of input in saying like I want to build this from the ground up. I will definitely level something and build a studio from the ground up. And it's not for just, let's say, professional use. It's like I want to work with students because I know there's a lot of students out there like me, especially in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a really big creative scene that it doesn't get overlooked in terms of like it doesn't have any type of recognition, but it gets looked over enough that like there's definitely kids out there that are in like places in like, let's say, North Philadelphia that don't have creative outlets and they don't have abilities because either a financial situation or like even access. That I want to be able to build something within the city that gives those type of things to students and like have some type of student plan where they can come in and like do these things. So I want to build a studio that literally has a fashion studio, a music studio, a graphic design studio, a business section, whatever, all like pretty much every single thing, let's say a college would have in a certain way. But for students in high school and students even in college who want to network with other students, at the end of the day, as much as, yeah, I do a lot of this myself, I didn't do it myself. I really had the help in terms of like people who I make connection with and I have good relationships with also look out for me and help me out. So it's really, there's no limit to me really. I really want to do a lot of things, but there are definitely like goals I want to hit within my life.
So the words today: direction, creativity, and networking and collaboration. I wanted to ask you 2 questions before we close. The first question, what is the coolest story or the coolest place you've traveled to since you sort of started doing this more seriously in 2017?
I would say it's another opportunity through the school. It was when we went to China last year. Like China, like let's say the culture and just like the environment I've always wanted to be in. Like that's a culture of just I don't know why, but like for some reason it's always resonated with me. I've always wanted to just be within the culture of like Chinese culture, Japanese culture, just like that Asian culture. So when I went, I went from like Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and this is the short course study abroad opportunity the school has. But at the same time, it was a weird thing where I had sent these shoes over to China, let's say 2018, like early 2018, let's say April. And they never made it over to like this artist out there. Like he sent me some shoes, he sent me a shirt he designed for me. And I sent him some shoes in return. We're like kind of we built a relationship out of it. And I sent it to him, it never got to him. It literally came to me like 8 months later, back to my doorstep. And I'm like, why did these just come back like months later? Like these never made to him. How am I gonna get these to him? And then somehow the opportunity came where, hey, I go to China. And I was just like, whoa, like that's crazy. And I took the opportunity, and being that China's so huge, you would never think that somehow we would end up in the same place. But somehow we ended up in the same place where like I kept updated with him, and I have some like Mandarin like knowledge, whatever, so I could interpret a little bit what he was saying. So somehow we worked something out. He came to Guangzhou. Actually, no, he came to Shenzhen. It was like middle Guangzhou, Shenzhen area. And in my hotel, like he came with his friend, like his business partner, and I had brought the shoe with me, and I gave it to him in person. This is something I would have never thought in a million years could happen, where like I could end up in a country not only that I've wanted to go in since I've ever known about it, but also meet with an artist face to face across the world that I've had a good relationship for the last 2 years through Instagram. But now we meet in person, and now that face to face connection of us seeing each other is a thing. And as well as I was able to give him something that like I really made for him. Like I didn't just leave the shoe home. I didn't just say, oh, forget the shoe, I'm not gonna get it to you. Like, no, this is an opportunity where I got him the shoe, and I got to him, and that was the best, I think, experience ever. Just that short span, because we sat there, we talked, and again, it was a language barrier, but somehow we could communicate. And I was speaking to him, his friend was kind of like translating a little bit of things, and it was like amazing, because it's like we're on literally two different sides of the world right now, two different people completely, but art brought us together. And not only did art bring us together, but also I had art plus me being in school brought me to the opportunity there. And let's say if I took the opportunity of me leaving school and doing my own design work outside school, I would have had the opportunity to do those things. Yeah, at some point I would have, but not that moment. And that meant so much to me, having to be able to do that.
That's awesome. That is a really cool story.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, you had kind of mentioned something earlier about, networking and staying involved and telling students to kind of be thoughtful about where they're going in the community, getting out into the community. That was one thing we talked about in pre-production, but what's the one thing that you would want people to know that are looking at a school like Thomas Jefferson University for design or fashion merchandising, or just people in the Philadelphia community? What's the advice that you would give them?
I'll say learn a little bit about like yourself. Like for me personally, like I'm still learning about myself, but like learn about yourself and learn about what you're interested in. I know it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of hard to just pinpoint, okay, I'm going to school for these things. But for me, I tell people like, look at what you're into like as a kid. For me personally, I was into artwork as a kid, and like somehow that has always been within myself to the point I got to school with it. So let's say this school itself, like I didn't connect me behavior art as a kid to me being in fashion, but at the same time, fashion is art. So I tell people like, look at something that you're good, like let's say not you're good at, but like let's look at something that sparks your interest enough that like it not only gives you the opportunity to try it, but also gives you enough leeway room to like be able to do new things, like and experience new things. Because if you're just sitting there and just doing one thing just all the time, you're gonna get good at it, but you're gonna miss out on so many other things that are happening around you. Get out, go downtown, look for events, like follow people inside Philadelphia, and follow people just in your area. Don't have to even just be Philadelphia, but follow people in your area of where you live at. Because as much as you're on campus and that's pretty much the community that you're in, and like you feel like you're kind of stuck on there, you're not. There's so many different transportation things out there now to get around. So try to just explore and take the opportunities that come inside of school, one, but also don't stop there. Look at opportunities outside of school, because for me personally, all this stuff really more came from opportunities. I could have just been a cool, good artist like that, but not take opportunities up that came my way and just stick it all to myself. But I was like, no, I'm inside school, and I believe in myself, and I believe that like I can at least try to do something, and I can make something out of myself if I really give effort to it. And just have that kind of belief, have that mentality. Don't look at yourself and say, oh, I can't do these things, I can't do these things. Because if anything, if you can't do that, it's just more of your inner fear and your thoughts taking over. So don't allow that. Allow yourself to give it an attempt, even if you fail at it. At least that attempt's there where like now you can learn at it. I failed at so many things. Even if I've done so many cool things, I failed at so many things. But I don't just sit on them. I look at them like, all right, like I'm learning from it. I've lost money out of it. I've lost these things out of it, but I'm learning from it. And just that ability to learn and that interest to want to learn more gets you to the next level in life. And I would say definitely college helps with that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the CareerSpeak podcast. Myles Nicholls, thank you again. Not a problem at all. And catch more episodes from us. This is another episode of CareerSpeak. Our theme music is composed by Spencer and Robin of Single Use Plastic, edited by Robin and Patrick. Our podcast is in collaboration with WPHU and Career Services.